when you're stuck in a rut of success. Focus leads to results, but it also creates ruts in the tapestry of reality. The Oxford Dictionary defines rut as a long, deep track made by the repeated passage of wheels of vehicles. So when people say I'm stuck in a rut, they usually refer to negative habits. But this chapter is about ruts that are created by success, which are often the deepest. When you keep repeating the same thoughts, behaviors, habits, and actions, you create a pattern. Eventually, that pattern can become a ditch out of which one rarely emerges within a lifetime. Why do we create ruts? Because at first it is beneficial to get into a groove. A narrowly defined path is easier to travel, and it makes going in other directions more difficult. Tom is an accountant. Defying stereotypes about accountants, he also enjoys playing the flute. Another part of him enjoys hiking. He also has 2 children, and he enjoys playing with them on weekends and some evenings. If he is the boss of his life, these different sub-personalities harmonize with each other. After a traumatic event around money, the identity accountant imposed itself more strongly. It suppressed other aspects, and now Tom is working all the time. No more flute, no more playing with the kids, no more hiking, just work. This predictability creates success in accounting. He does become an expert. But is he enjoying himself? Does he have any friends? No. He is stuck in a rut. It is success, but of a limited kind. Is a person who is good at only one thing a success? Not to me. It's easy to succeed at the expense of all else. I admire those who succeed at many different things without sacrificing other aspects of who they are. Higher self seeks a variety of experience, but the world self finds comfort in routine. Ella wishes to implement a whole new thing in her company. Granted, new doesn't always mean good. But this thing Ella is proposing is really good. It will help automate tedious processes to free up attention for all staff. But the company won't even listen to Ella. We're doing well. We don't need to change, they say. One of the greatest obstacles to future success is present success. Things could be so much better, but we settle for the status quo because things are going well. The problem? Maintaining the status quo is an illusion. There is no such thing as stagnation in nature. If you are not growing and expanding, you are declining. If you are resting on the past, you are declining. Nobody is meant to rest on "it's already done" and "I already know." The company might seem to be doing well at the moment, but with that mentality, it is already in decline. Everyone needs to improve and change perpetually, even if changes are small. If this company will not even hear her ideas, their attitude will manifest as real trouble soon. Change before you have to. Am I suggesting you stop creating ruts? No. If you stop creating routine, you won't succeed in anything. You won't develop persistence. Reality creators have the ability to create paths that don't turn into ruts, to create habits that don't turn rigid, to create familiar routines that don't become traps. Now, there is the other extreme, the no ruts type. Imagine a mushroom-tripping vagabond who wanders from place to place, not knowing where he will be tomorrow. Sometimes he even forgets his name. He is undefined. Now, undefined can be wonderful, but it doesn't develop will. The ability to undefine who we are was given to us so that we can redefine, not so that we can stay undefined. The neutral gear of a car serves a purpose, but you're not meant to stay there. Creating definition creates reality. Eventually, the wandering bohemian will want to settle, have some familiar faces, friends, maybe get a job or learn a skill. A return to definition. People who stay undefined are scared of getting stuck in a rut. People stuck in a rut are scared of being undefined. A person who has mastered life can be in both worlds. For example, I am undefined regarding weekend activities and well-defined regarding weekday activities. Once I purchased this package vacation in an all-inclusive hotel in the Dominican Republic. This was 25 years or more ago. But it was the last time I did that because the predictable element is too high, taking all the fun out of it. The most fun vacation was a road trip across foreign countries with no specific plan or destination. It was unpredictable. There were dangerous encounters with animals in the wild and weird people. But there were also encounters with friendly faces. The unpredictable is more to the taste of the higher self. The stronger you feel, the more you welcome surprise and adventure. In a weakened state, you seek safety and structure. Now, I have always recommended providing clear structures and predictable patterns to children, pets, to people who are sick, and to those who are struggling. For instance, a person struggling financially needs conscious accounting of their income and expenses. Those who have figured out the money game do not need nannying. To visualize the all ruts type of person, imagine a workaholic. This person would benefit from breaking routine. He thinks he is more successful and more effective with his work addiction. In reality, he is suppressing 80% of life experience. He will benefit greatly from doing his job differently or doing a different job altogether. Yet, many people wear, "I've done this my whole life," as a badge of honor. Their strong rut creates momentum and recognition, so the public even expects them to stay in their rut. They don't wish to see the CEO of a software company suddenly taking off to Nepal in search of ancient scrolls hidden in caves. They'd prefer not to see the actor quit his career to become a pastor. They don't want to envision the chef of a restaurant going away to study dentistry. The mind says, stay right where you are so that we can feel safe and have predictable patterns. All of the major personality tests, like the Myers-Briggs, seek to define and limit who a person is. I did the test when I was in my 20s and 30s, and now again in my late 40s. Each time my personality type, quote unquote, ended up as someone completely different, and that's a good thing. But it also means that personality tests are meaningless. A soul can be every type of personality. Here's a shocker. In the month of July 2022, my book, Parallel Universes of Self, published originally in 2006, sold almost 1,000 copies. That's really good for a self-published book that had zero marketing. My more recent book, The Secret History of Polynesia, sold only 9 copies in July 2022. Wow, what a difference. So what's going on? It means that I have managed to create a strong self-perpetuating energy field around one topic, but not around the other. I told this to someone who said, "You better stick to what you're good at, Fred." I say no. That's really bad advice. If you wish to grow into the fullness of who you are, you're better off trying things you are not yet good at. Quote-unquote failing to sell could easily persuade one to abandon the new project and return to the safety of the rut. But that's a mistake. I only grow in places I know little about. Money is not the only criteria. People get horribly stuck in ruts if they think that it's only all about the money. Fortunately, I've created a strong rut that makes money for me through real estate. So I am not dependent on my books succeeding, and I can write whatever I want. I know what I could have written if my goal were to sell books, but money is not the only criteria. That book that nobody is reading now will have its time long after I have left this world. It was written for a future generation. From this, you see why I teach passive income. Passive income means creating a strong rut that you yourself don't have to be involved in once it's created. If you have that, then it's much easier to leave your rut and create new paths. How can you create a stable path without getting stuck in it? Now, this is a little tricky. I've lived in 4 different countries, and that has helped immensely. The average person in my country moves 11 times during their lifetime. That's good. A person ought to change location and job every 7 to 10 years. If you're not willing to change your career, you ought to change the way you do it. Have an aspect of stability and an aspect of flexibility in your work. Stability attracts the world self. Flexibility attracts the higher self. When I coach a person, one of the first things I determine is whether they need to open up more or close more. That is, becoming more defined and focused. There's a simple way to find out. If you feel bored and/or totally in control of your life, then you need to start opening up. Less certainty and more spontaneity. But if you're feeling overwhelmed and confused, you need to start defining and limiting, looking for reliability. Every individual needs to find out for him or herself how much control or release they currently want in their life, and know that either can be beneficial. My life is constant, never-ending improvement, but not in a stressful, radical way, more like slow and gentle, ever upwards. If my self from a year ago met my self today, he would barely recognize him. For example, this year I've given up the habit of eating while working, and I've implemented the habit of swimming in my pool almost every day. This year I talked to all the neighbors, but in the last years I didn't talk to any neighbors. Up until this year, I wore shirts that had one color, often white, black, gray, or blue. This is the first year I am wearing multicolored and bright shirts. If the 2021 Fred met the 2022 Fred, he would laugh at those bright shirts. Something brand new I started doing a year ago is to decline coaching to companies that don't share my values. When I was younger, I wouldn't discriminate against any company for any reason. As long as they pay, I don't care what their values are. But today, I eagerly and joyfully discriminate. Again, my younger self would not recognize my current self. However, throughout all changes, some things never change. For example, a basic level of kindness has never changed and never will. Sure, some will say that me declining companies is unkind, but going against one's values or affirming others' fears is not kindness. In fact, on the contrary. Now, if you say, well, I tried to change one of my habits, but I can't, that's being stuck in a rut. In that case, it'll take effort to get out, perhaps even outside assistance. And if your response is, I don't want to create any habits, that's being too undefined. If you don't create habits, you also don't experience anything more thoroughly. Before I started my new swimming habit, I wasn't experiencing the sunshine and water the way I am experiencing them months later. A habit goes from tentative trying it to deep immersion. If you are a master of your life, you don't need to be afraid of immersing yourself in something new, because you can enter and exit anything. When I say, let go of the good for the better, you might say, how can I really know that the new thing is better? I like to respond to that frequent question like this. No matter how good it has been, if it has gone on for too long or you have mastered it, then it's time to move on. The exception to this rule would be relationships. Relationships can go on for a lifetime because people can change, and they are meant to change. Of course, if a person never changes, the relationship grows stale, and you move on. So if you wish to keep a relationship, instead of trying to stay exactly the same as when your spouse met you, you are better off developing. I know that's the opposite of what people commonly think, but the primary reason relationships break up is not because someone changes, but because one person is not changing or developing while the other is. If both are improving, there is no reason to break up. Now, not all changes are good. Sometimes you will notice that the new thing you stepped into is not as awesome as you thought it was. But that doesn't mean you should go back to the old rut. It's such a silly reaction. Oh my God, that didn't work. We need to get back to the old thing. There are always many new options, many new doors to choose from. So, looking back at your life, do you want to be stereotypical? Or would you like to be Renaissance? This completes the collection of articles written and published by Frederick Dodson in 2022. We hope you've enjoyed them. Thank you for listening. For more articles, music, live events, membership site, books, audiobooks, and more, visit realitycreation.org.